As you sit there and watch this show, you're one of two kinds of people. Either you have no idea what November 15th is all about, which is the day after tomorrow, or you're a deer hunter who knows that's our opening day of firearm deer season, the most exciting day of the year for hunters. We're going to give you a psych-up. We're going to show you what happened back in 1988. Oh, could have been one of the coolest deer openers I've ever seen. We're going to give you some tips on still hunting, which is walking through the woods. In fact, we have a lot of things to tell you about, so you stay tuned. I'm Fred Trost for the Deer Opener Psych-up 1997.
It's 20 after 7 here on opening morning. We're on a knoll that is overlooking a little aspen stand and the tail end of a swamp that is right by a rye field, a big rye field. Jimmy Butler's potato farm is right here. A lot of deer are in the rye field in the morning and they move into here and through here to bed. We're on a knoll, and on this knoll it sort of splits the deer runs. So they come from that field and they go both directions. We only saw a couple deer out in that field a few minutes ago. Nothing has moved through here since daylight. We've had some rain mixed with snow. Wind has been gusting on and off. Not bad conditions, but not the best. We need a few more deer. Well, we'll just wait them out.
Well, we couldn't wait as long as we planned, though. Seemed that the weather got the best of us.
Here we are, sleet, freezing rain coming down. It's only 5 after 8, but we had to abandon the blind. Our camera was getting soaked, everything was getting soaked. We didn't see any deer. So here we are out on the road, which you can see. We have a lot of sleet on the road. Not the best opening day conditions by a long shot, but we know bucks were taken, and we're going to go out and talk to some people who've had some success.
Remember, that was my plan, but first, a quick check of a small swamp.
Well, the rain is pelting down right now. It's only about 8:15 in the morning on opening day, and this really dampens the enthusiasm of hunters, dampens the activity of deer, and it makes it all around miserable. It's going to be tough driving getting back to the Mackinac Bridge. We're going to give this one last shot here. Now, Jeff is going to be working from that barn back through this swamp, and usually we kick out some deer. At least that's what Jimmy Butler says. We'll be kicking deer out here that may come right across this bean field. I'm going to be down in the corner. Maybe I'll get a shot at a buck. I don't know. It's our last chance, our last hope.
Well, I thought at the time that this was our last hope, because I had told Bob Garner and everybody else that by 10 o'clock or so, I'd quit hunting, and John Ford and I would head across the UP talking to successful hunters. We could hear their gunshots. The way the rain was coming down, I was almost looking forward to this being the end of my hunt. That's when I said goodbye to Jeffrey Bickle and wished him luck.
Well, we squirted about, 16, 18 deer out of there. What'd you think, Jeff?
Yeah.
So what are you going to do the rest of the day?
Well, go eat something and then head back out to the woods, probably.
You're going to sit?
Yeah. Probably sit on the bean field here tonight and watch for that big buck.
What do you make of it, an opener like this?
Weather could have been better. Wind could have been down a little bit. I don't think the deer are moving too much this morning.
True, the deer weren't moving as much as they had been a week earlier, or even as much as they'd move if the weather was better. But before we started towards the Mackinac Bridge, John and I decided to take my gun and his camera to the edge of a rye field, just for an hour or two. Even though the rain would pelt down between drizzling spells, we found the deer were active in the late morning. And since visibility was poor with the haze, I'd check for antlers through my rifle scope. Only one thing was bothering me, besides the fact that by now we were supposed to be on the road for this TV report, the problem of looking at deer through glasses that would get covered with water droplets little by little, and finding the same problem with my rifle scope that would also fog up if I closed the lens caps. Well, you can see deer okay with rain-covered glasses, but that's not the problem. The problem is, can you see antlers on deer when you have raindrops on your glasses? That's where I had great difficulty. And when you have only a buck tag, you had better be darn sure that deer has antlers before you shoot. The wind was perfect. We were downwind from the deer, but it also meant the drizzle blew towards us, and I had to clean off my glasses and my scope quite often. Unfortunately, I didn't clean them often enough. I had been watching a doe and her 2 fawns walking down the field, and here they are, and I told myself there was no need to clean my glasses. The rain was coming down too hard. Obviously a doe and 2 fawns. Didn't realize that John was having as much trouble with his camera viewfinder, and he even went to a super telephoto. On a TV screen, those antlers are obvious, but we couldn't see him until the buck got within 100 yards. I would have sworn it was a doe.
It's a buck, dude. It's a buck. What? It's a buck. Okay, where? Left. That's a buck. Yes, the 4-point.
I could barely see the antlers through my glasses. John could only make out 4 points in the viewfinder. Here on TV, we saw it was at least a 6, probably an 8-point with the brow tines. By the time my rifle scope was wiped off and up to my shoulder, that buck, that big buck, the biggest buck I had ever seen on an opening day with a gun in my hand, had sauntered away. Right in front of me and all of you folks. I should have cried over that one, but you know, as I cleaned those glasses off, I was still under the impression it was only a little 4-point. Well, we decided not to leave this spot right away. In fact, we moved down the field a couple 100 yards because it seemed that more deer were coming into the southwest corner of this rye field from an adjoining swamp and aspen stand. Pretty tough visibility as it got dark and the weather closed in, but I checked every deer with clean glasses and a clean rifle scope. Time flashed by, it was getting later and later, but deer kept coming into the field, and there was no way another buck was going to slip by. I mean, no way. What would you do in a circumstance like this? I know what I did. I changed my plan.
Well, you know, my plan was to leave at about 11 o'clock and go to the eastern end of the UP, the bridge, interview hunters on the way. And Bob Garner, I got to apologize to you. You're going to have to interview the hunters. I'm trapped. I can't leave the western end of the Upper Peninsula. The deer have me penned in, hemmed in. I'm afraid if I made a move, you know, it'd be all over for me. So I've got to stay here until dark. John and I decided that we've got to do this because there's got to be a buck coming out here sooner or later. We have 11 deer in front of us right now. They've been filtering out for the past couple hours. I just wish I could leave and go interview some other hunters, but I don't know, this is one of the toughest decisions of my life.
No, don't believe that for a minute. It wasn't a tough decision at all. But who could blame me, though, for spending the entire opening day hunting with this many deer around?
Time to check for antlers. Oh, shoot. One thing about this weather. Keeps fogging up the scope. Gotta wipe it off all the time. And my glasses. Now I can check for antlers. Nope. Ooh, the little fawn back there jumped at something. Maybe a mouse. Not an antler in the group.
Well, I waited right down to the end, last light, cleaning off my scope, wiping off my glasses, checking for antlers on every deer that stepped into the field, rechecking every deer 2 and 3 times. That big buck taught me a lesson. The same lesson I learned over and over on opening day. Don't take anything for granted, or that big buck will slip away once again. Now that was back in 1988. Yes, I've learned to pay attention, keep my eyes open, keep the rain off my glasses. There's many ways of doing that. I hope maybe you learned something from that too. If you're not a hunter, maybe you get a feel of what it's like to be out there. I mean, yeah, the conditions can be miserable, but there's something that's a lot of fun about it. Now, sitting and watching deer is one way to hunt, but there's another way. It's called still hunting, walking, moving. In fact, we're going to give you a little primer here, a little rundown of the different ways of hunting and how still hunting is done. There are 4 basic ways to hunt white-tailed deer. Hunting from a blind or a post, where the hunter is hidden, is the easiest and most common method. Stalking a deer once it's seen, that's the most difficult. Driving deer past hunters who are stationary is a late season technique, but the combination of methods is called still hunting, moving through the woods or a swamp slowly, stopping often, and watching for deer. Bob Bolton from Midland, Michigan has taken 15 of 22 bucks this way, as he did on this opening morning after a snowfall. His technique is classic still hunting.
Describe to me, if you were teaching me how to still hunt like you do, how would I make my way through this stuff?
Well, just basically try to pick an area that you're going to make the least amount of noise in. You don't want to be breaking twigs or anything like that. I don't know if there's any particular avenue you're supposed to take out there. Just get out in the thick stuff and try to move as slowly and carefully as you can.
Do you, for example, step over things, or will you walk around?
Well, if it's more than about a foot high, generally I'll walk around if I can. Anything to be silent. Use your ears a lot. Use your eyes. On a morning like this morning, you couldn't hear all that good. You could hear, I think out of the 7 deer, actually, I think I saw them all before I heard them. And I think all of them were within 40 yards before I got a look at them.
Why do you wear wool pants, wool shirt? Is this what you wear when you're hunting?
Yes.
This
Yes.
is your outer clothing?
Yes.
Why?
It's quiet.
Okay, so this doesn't make noise when you rub against...
Right.
Okay, underneath this you have a vest, you have a flannel shirt, you have at least 2 more long underwear under there.
T-shirt and sweatshirt, insulated underwear. I'm moving real slow, so I'm not gonna get
sweat.
Overheated, right? And
Okay, now what about your shoes? Let me see these boots here. These are still hunter's boots.
I don't know about that. They're leather insulated waterproof boots. They're light, so they're comfortable to walk in.
Okay, how tight do you lace? No, you don't lace them very tight at all.
They're not terribly tight, no. They're relatively new. Maybe they get broke in a little better.
Well, let's see could you lift up the sole of them here so we can see what... Okay, well, it's is this a Vibram sole? How do you carry your rifle when you're still hunting? Do you put it on a sling over your shoulder? Do you have it ready to shoot?
No, I have it ready to shoot. I'll carry it like this. Sometimes you get into situations where you will, all of a sudden a deer will appear 20, 25 yards away from you, and it's not uncommon that you'll kind of see each other at the same time, and the deer will be looking at you about the same time you're looking at it, and you want to be in a position to get your gun to your shoulder and shoot real quickly if you have to.
Well, what's the biggest fault that hunters commit when they're still hunting?
I think basically just not paying attention. Not having themselves convinced that at any given second a deer might just appear in front of them. I think they really think there is a certain psychology to it, that you hunt better when you think you're going to see deer, and you pay attention better, and if you're in cover like this, and you're going to see them.
When you pussyfoot through this thick stuff, covering 100 yards in an hour, will you often jump them up from bedding, or are they moving, or what?
Occasionally you'll walk up on one, and jump it up. Most of the deer you're going to see, though, will be moving, generally kind of like you are. Generally they're just kind of sneaking along quietly also. So it's real important to pay very close attention, listen for any little noise, any twigs to snap, rustling, and I'm using my ears as much as my eyes every time that I stop.
Okay, now if we're still hunting through here, how many steps are we going to take?
Well, I think probably right here I might move around this little obstruction and get to this point and
Well, I can see you're getting in the mood already. You're moving. You're moving
yeah.
like a snake. Okay.
I would then stand here for,
And scan the whole woods.
yes,
For how long?
probably at least 30 seconds.
Okay.
Again, remember to look behind you too,
Mhm.
because,
They do come behind you.
well, sure, yeah, they can move into you from any direction, depending on the wind. If you've got a good stiff wind, you're not going to have too many of them move directly behind you, but yeah, you can see them in any position.
Now, from here, where are you going to go? You could go into the swamp. You could go along the edge. Which way do you pick?
I would probably get out into it.
Okay, so we're going to get out into it. Which way would you try it? Let's see how quiet you can be. This is the type of thing that would drive people crazy to
Well,
walk this slow.
maybe what I have to do, Fred, is just get myself kind of psyched up into it and have myself convinced that lurking behind every tree out there is a great big buck, and it's incredible how fast the time will pass. I'll look at my watch sometimes and think I've been doing it for a half an hour, and 3 hours will have gone by.
Do you see more deer, do you feel, than people who sit or not?
I think I do, yeah, for the most part.
But it drives you buggy to sit?
No, I'll sit depending on conditions and depending on how good I think a spot looks. I'll sit occasionally, but generally I'll do it in combination with still hunting.
So your 22nd deer in all these years of hunting, and you want me to help you drag it out?
Sounds good to me.
All the way up this hill.
Bob Bolton is a good example for still hunters, but safety is important when you sneak through the woods. Bob wears the minimum amount of blaze orange required in Michigan, a blaze orange hat, but in some states a full orange vest is required. Be careful, be alert, and you might become one of those lucky hunters who puts venison in the freezer by still hunting.
Now, when you get a deer like that, I mean, the deer meat venison is great. There's lots of ways to cook it. In fact, we have an unusual recipe coming up in just a moment. But first, I want to show you a way of hunting that is luxury. I'd call this luxury plus.
When I was a kid, I would have loved this.
Well, some deer hunting shacks are difficult to climb in and out of. We've hunted in all kinds of blinds over the years, but none matches the ultra deluxe deer blind that Jack Scully and the Au Gray Knights of Columbus designed, built, and raffled off this past year. Jack brought this semi-portable blind to the outdoor fair last July, and it was equipped with just about everything.
Well, we got a swivel seat here. And if anybody wants to get out here the night before, these fold up all around, so you have a bunk on each side.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah, and everything comes, the pillows, and if you don't want your eggs burnt, we have marine power battery lights and to play cards. And we'll have some aspirin coming that all goes with it. And our TV, because you know, when it rains or drizzles, it's tough hunting, and you just don't want to catch a cold. And the wives don't know what it is to bring home the bacon.
Well, Bill McDonald from Royal Oak brought home the bacon with this blind. He held the winning ticket. You just might see Bill hunting from this ultra deluxe this weekend. It's tucked away in the woods somewhere near Hubbard Lake. Dan Skiba from Ossining is a practical sportsman who enjoys more of his deer than most people, I think. One of his favorite recipes is called Sweethearts, and as you might guess, it begins with a half a dozen deer hearts, contributed by his successful deer hunting friends, I'm sure. He quarters each heart and soaks them in salty water overnight. Then he drains off the brine and boils these hearts in fresh water for about 4 hours. Then he drains the hearts and cuts off all the gristle and fat, leaving just tender, and I mean very tender meat, which he packs into pint canning jars. He then mixes up his pickling ingredients, which are 4 cups of dark vinegar, 4 cups of water, 1 cup of sugar, a 1/4 cup of pickling spices, and a sliced onion. And you boil these pickling ingredients, pour them into the jars, and seal the jars with hot lids. Now, if you haven't had Pickled Heart, and it probably doesn't sound too exciting if you haven't, but I love deer heart, whether it's fried or pickled. It's excellent. I can tell you from personal experience, Dan Skiba's recipe is excellent. You'll find it in the October-November issue of the Outdoor Digest magazine. Send me your favorite fish or game recipe. Send me your questions, ideas, plans, or projects, home videos. We're always looking for viewer contributions to use on this show. This is the part of the show where I like to give you an idea of the different outdoor events coming up this weekend. Well, the fishing report has got to go this weekend. I mean, who cares? And our shooting sports calendar, hey, are you kidding? In every category, competitive recreational shooting is taking this weekend off. The big news, of course, is hunting on Friday. Tomorrow, the season ends for grouse, pheasant, and archery deer. Now, rabbit and squirrel seasons continue. And on Saturday, we do pick up a new season, the big one for 2 weeks only, firearm deer season statewide. Now, the DNR gives you a whole book full of regulations when you buy a license. Pay special attention to the ones about transporting guns. Number 1, whenever a gun is in or on a vehicle, you can get written up for a ticket unless the gun is unloaded and enclosed in a case. Another reminder, shining deer, illegal the whole month of November. And very importantly, observe the property rights of private landowners. No intentional trespassing, please. Even to retrieve a deer, you must have the landowner's permission when you go onto private land. Now, this Saturday and Sunday, we'll be in the woods from dawn till dark, taping next week's show. On Sunday evening, John Ford and I will be at the Buckpole at Mill Creek Sports Center in Dexter with the cameras at 8:30 p.m. Sunday night. In previous years, we've seen some of the biggest racks of the season on this Buckpole. Now, next Thursday, we'll show you this preview of the kinds of racks you'll see on Big Buck Night, the big gathering of big southern Michigan bucks. That'll be at Mill Creek Sports Center in Dexter Sunday night, November 16th, 8:30 p.m. Now, Big Buck Night this year will be telecast on Thursday, December 11th at 8 p.m. statewide. If you would like to be considered for Big Buck Night, you need to qualify for an MSDA hunting award for deer. You can qualify one of 3 ways. First of all, your deer rack must have 10 or more antler points. That's the old Morton F. method that I've used on TV for the past 20 years. Or as an alternative to allow big racks with less than 10 points, you can also qualify if your rack has an outside spread of at least 18 inches. So a big wide 6-point or a wide 4-point can qualify with an extremely wide spread. There's a third way, if an antler tine is at least 10 inches long. That's how a spike buck can qualify. Spikes at least 10 inches or an antler tine of 10 inches or more will get you an MSDA hunting award, get you in the running for Big Buck Night. On Big Buck Night, we will be choosing 40 of the biggest racks from around the state, spike bucks on up, and we're going to have a spectacular show. We have an award form in the Outdoor Digest magazine. Call us. We will send you one right away. Even if you don't get a monstrous huge buck from the northern part of the state, please call us with that rack. We want to have the Upper Peninsula and Northern Lower represented on Big Buck Night. Now, the UP, going to be kind of tough, according to Paul up in Houghton. Spotty. That's what they're looking for an opener, not many bucks. Ontonagon area, fair is the best they could come up with. Little Bay de Noc, slow they're expecting because the herd is down from the hard winters. Marquette is looking for a poor season because of the hard winters. Over here on Drummond Island, they call it maybe fair. 200 bucks came off the island at this time last year, or by this time last year. Only 87 have come off the island this year. Now we get south of the bridge here, it improves quite a bit. They're looking for a great opener in the Indian River area. Over here in Cadillac, looking for an excellent opener. Wellman's on the west or east side of the state here says it's going to be down from last year, but they are seeing big bucks. Now the southern third of the state, we're looking good all over the place. The corn still is standing in some of the northern part of this area, but down here the corn has been cut. So I don't know if I told you folks exactly where we're going to be hunting. We're, let's see, about right there. Anyway, that's you'll see it all next week. Don't worry about that location. We're going to be having some fun. I hope you do too. Check us out at the Buckpole, and be sure you check us out here next week. Have a good, safe hunt this weekend. That's a great photo of a trophy buck on the cover of the October-November Outdoor Digest magazine. If you like your magazines in color, hey, you'll love this one. Lots of charts and graphs that show you where, when, and how the big bucks are taken. And we have a page on deer season fishing as well. How to do it projects, recipes you can cook with fish or game, The Truth About Scents by Kevin Cray, tips on where to go for fishing and hunting success at this time of year, Dog Talk with Mark Raymond, Fishing for Fun with Professor Finns, Price Watch checks the cost of sporting goods, MSDA News describes how this new organization will become the leader in promoting the shooting sports in Michigan. I explain why hunting, fishing, and shooting is not rocket science. It's easy and it's fun. For a free copy of this issue, write to me at Box 1001, Bath 48808. Enclose $1 and we'll send your issue first-class mail the same day we receive your request.
I saw him just come trotting down the hill, so I pulled down on him and shot him.
Wow. And that you were able to get back in school then before what, third period?
I kind of had to miss the rest of the day.
Did you?
Yeah.
Boy, I'm sorry to hear about that, Eric. But you did a great job. That's a super story and a super rack. Congratulations on that. Eric Connor from Ionia.